What's up, everyone? I am here in my new studio space, which is still in a state of utter chaos, but I got an okay camera angle, so you can't really see it. So I'm not really going to be playing the drums today. Instead, I'm going to talk a little about what it means to be a professional musician or a professional drummer in the modern era. When I was a lot younger, I thought that being a professional musician only meant doing world tours at arenas and just if your face wasn't on a magazine, then were you even a pro? I just equated fame to professionalism, and obviously that's not the reality. And it took me until I was a little older to realize that being a professional musician could mean a whole bunch of different things. Technically, I am a professional musician. How cool is that? But what exactly does that mean? If you're a professional at something, it's assumed that you are good at the thing and you get paid to do the thing. Almost all the money I earn comes from music-related endeavors, but a bunch of different things that are all related to music. Most of my income comes from teaching, doing private lessons. So I have some of my own independent students, and then I also have a whole bunch of students through this small drum school that I work with called Boston Drum Lessons. And I also do social media and content creation for Boston Drum Lessons, so I get paid for that. I also get paid through YouTube and Patreon, so I got several different streams of income. And before the whole pandemic started, I also was doing studio sessions, so I was making some more money there, and even doing some gigs, usually with my own bands, so those were more for fun than for profit. But in any case, it is extremely common for a professional musician to have many different streams of income. So while I earn most of my money through teaching, I have a lot of friends that, at least pre-pandemic, earned pretty much all their income through performing, whether it was like cruise ship gigs or being a hired gun on a tour, or even just doing general business, bar gigs, cover gigs, weddings, things like that. Personally, I was never really attracted to the idea of doing a lot of cover music. I really didn't want to go through the grind of learning like 300 tunes and then just playing them at a bar to a bunch of super drunk people. That just didn't appeal to me. I always wanted to perform my own music, so that's what I do. But that, of course, meant that I had to find other ways to make money with music if I wanted to really be a professional musician. And sometimes I feel almost guilty not constantly seeking out performance opportunities, but I've more recently come to almost embrace that. Like, I don't have to want to just play music that I really don't enjoy. That just, again, it doesn't appeal to me, so I'm not doing it. And then I always think back to the career trajectory of like Gary Chaffee. So Gary Chaffee is an incredible drummer, but he's primarily an educator and like a clinician. And even though he didn't do extensive touring or gigging or anything like that, he definitely did some, but his claim to fame was much more on the education side of things. So he kind of rebooted the Berklee percussion department, and a lot of the teachers that I had while I was at Berklee studied under Gary Chaffee. So obviously the guy is incredibly influential, even if you don't know his name off the top of your head. And his influence didn't come from doing arena tours or anything like that, but he's still a professional musician. Conversely, there are plenty of drummers that are all about the touring lifestyle, and they just want to constantly be on the road and in front of huge crowds, and that's totally legit also. But those types of gigs are really, really difficult to come by, and I think it's an unrealistic expectation for a ton of people. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't strive for something like that if that's what you really want, but it is a grind to get there. It's not like you go from being in the practice room one day to on a gig like that the next day. There's so much that happens in between, and by that I mean it's a lot of taking really bad gigs, playing to empty rooms, playing music you don't like, all of that stuff. But no matter what specifically you want to do as a professional drummer or musician, it's really important to just behave like a professional. So that entails showing up on time, being respectful of the people that you're working with, keeping a good schedule, keeping track of your finances, and then, of course, in the actual music side of things, you probably want to be a versatile player. So you understand the basics of many, many different styles and some of the history behind each of them. And at the end of the day, you just want to be a person that other people want to be around, or at least can tolerate being around. You know, maybe you don't have to be the kindest, warmest person in the world, but at the same time, you could be the best drummer out there. But if you are impossible to get along with and you're just super arrogant and all up in your own business, people are going to get sick of that really, really quickly, and you're going to find that work dries up. Also, it certainly doesn't hurt to be creative and goal-oriented. I mean, especially with this last year, it's like we all had to get creative to figure out how to continue earning money with music. I was really fortunate that I was able to get like an online teaching setup going on, so that quite literally saved my ass this past year. Another important thing that you'll need to be comfortable with if you want to be a professional musician, you got to be able to take criticism well. I've done a bunch of studio sessions where I would come in with what I thought were some pretty cool ideas or a pretty creative take on the direction that I was given, only to be told, don't do that. Instead, just do something totally different, and you just have to leave your ego at the door, because it's not your creative vision all the time. And that just requires being humble, and again, also just being a sort of style chameleon. Sometimes they might want you to play in a style that isn't your primary style, but since you're the person that they hired for the job, you got to be able to adapt. You also need to be prepared for the fact that not every aspect of pursuing music professionally is necessarily fun. I've done a whole bunch of gigs that were a 4-hour drive away, where you play for 30 minutes in front of 3 people, and then you got to pack it up, turn around, and go home. And then you get home at 5 or 6 in the morning, and you maybe earned $25 that you got to split between your bandmates and the gas, and it's not fun. Sometimes it flat out sucks. But those experiences are necessary for kind of becoming a little more battle-hardened, because it's a slog. It is an absolute grind to do this professionally. I mean, it's emotionally taxing. It takes a lot of energy, and it takes a lot of time, like a long time. It takes years and years for people to really develop their career. So like when I first finished Berklee back at the end of 2014, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do with music. I just knew that I wanted drumming and music to be the center of my life. So I started to try to build around that. And that entailed getting a part-time job. So I worked at a grocery store for like 3 years part-time while I built up a student base. And in 2018, I was finally able to drop the part-time gig at the grocery store and do only music stuff full time. It was definitely taken a little bit of a leap of faith, but honestly, I'm so much happier now. And I'll be honest, I don't earn a ton of money. You know, there are other sacrifices that you might have to make depending on where you live if you really truly want to pursue this professionally. So for a couple examples, I still live in a place with a bunch of roommates for some cheaper rent. I don't own a car, and just in general, I live a pretty frugal lifestyle. I just live within my means. And for now, at least, I'm fine with making those compromises. I love doing this. I mean, I wouldn't trade this for anything. And yeah, I'm sure I could get some office job doing the 9-to-5 thing with a salary and a 401k and all of that good stuff. But that doesn't really appeal to me. So I'm kind of pursuing this somewhat alternative lifestyle, living a little bit more on the fringes of society. What a rush. But for real, there have been many, many times where I seriously consider just giving up on doing this professionally and just pursuing something else and just putting it behind me. But there's always something that just never lets me hang it up, and I am thankful for whatever that something is. So just to do a quick recap, if you want to be a professional musician, you got to just behave like a professional, show up on time, be considerate of others, all that, common courtesy stuff. You also want to be really good at your instrument. You got to be able to take criticism. You got to be able to adapt quickly, be creative, all the skills that are valued by professionals in any industry. And if you really play your cards right and you are just persistent, and disciplined, and straight up stubborn, you can make a living doing this. It might not be the most comfortable thing in the world for a while, but you can do it. If I could do it, I think a lot of other people could do it too. So that's my spiel for today. Hopefully you find that interesting or engaging or something. I don't know if there are other qualities that you think make a professional musician a professional. Let me know in the comments. I would like to maybe discuss this further at some point. And hopefully I'll be back to doing more actual straight up drum lesson stuff next week. We'll see, though. Thank you again to all my Patreon patrons. Y'all are awesome. And thank you again for your patience with all of the studio stuff going on. Follow me on Instagram at DrumMerhar. Twitch.tv/DrumMerhar. I've been a little inactive there lately. I want to be able to do stuff from this room. More on that later. Thanks for watching.